My fellow Americans, prepare for a throwdown. I'm David Reddish. Welcome to Occupy Democrats. In the wake of Donald Trump's return to the White House and the litany of confusing, often contradictory, and legally dubious executive orders he issued, Washington insiders have begun to push back. Fellow lawmakers of both parties have taken issue with Trump's decision to pardon the January 6th insurrectionists. For more on that, check out our other videos. But now that ire has spread to the floors of Congress, where Representative Jamie Raskin of Maryland has gone viral for his remarks. More on that in a moment. Raskin is a ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee, and during hearings this morning exploded over Trump's abuse of power. In his remarks, Raskin laid down a scathing critique of Trump's pardoning of the Capitol attackers. Take a look at this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The chairman began by saying the point here is to restore the rule of law. Restore the rule of law. Can you even pretend to do that if you stand by and support Donald Trump, who on day one, as the chairman of the committee just said, day one of his presidency, pardoned 1,500 insurrectionists, including hundreds of people who violently assaulted and attacked American police officers. Let's just take one person who is free today, Julian Cater, who had been convicted after having every due process protection, the right to counsel, the right to cross-examine witnesses, the right to introduce evidence, but they had him completely. They knew exactly what happened. Most of this was videotaped so the whole world could see it. Well, Julian Cater repeatedly, violently assaulted our officer protecting us in Congress, Officer Brian Sicknick, who then proceeded to have several strokes and died on January the 7th, 2021, the next day. The family of Officer Sicknick is absolutely devastated and demolished by what's just happened. I invite any of my colleagues, including the members new to this committee who maybe weren't here on January 6th and didn't experience the trauma of that violent insurrection when we saw a mob marauding through here yelling, "Hang Mike Pence, hang Mike Pence," and looking to assassinate Nancy Pelosi. And now you have the temerity to come forward and say this is about public safety? How much safer are we now with these 1,500 criminals at large in Washington, D.C. and going out into the country? Are you vouching that these people are not going to be attacking any other police officers? Are you vouching that they are no longer a threat to public safety? What an outrage. What a scandal.
Raskin's righteous rage continued in a moment that has quickly spread over the internet. The congressman went on to share his disgust and anger over Trump's executive order denying birthright citizenship to the children of immigrants. Legal scholars have already noted that the order likely violates the 14th Amendment and will create nothing but legal chaos. Here's what Raskin had to say.
Unbelievable that a lot of my friends on the other side of the aisle are sitting by idly while Donald Trump proposes by executive order to destroy Section 1 of the 14th Amendment, which establishes that everybody born in the United States is a citizen of the United States. And yet, they just let that go. All of these originalists and textualists who claim to care about what the Constitution stands for, that was the whole purpose and meaning of the 14th Amendment, and now they want to destroy birthright citizenship in America, moving to a citizenship based on race instead of a citizenship based on place, which was the whole purpose of the 14th Amendment, to overturn the Dred Scott decision. Well, we're obviously going to have some differences moving forward because they don't want real solutions. They just want to demagogue the immigration issue. That doesn't move America forward. It's just like they demagogued the issue of inflation. They said they were going to bring down prices in rent, in utilities, energy costs. They said they were going to bring down the price of groceries. Not a single peep from them about that on day one. No, it's just about releasing all the violent insurrectionists, the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers who are out there today saying that they want revenge. That's the real program for America.
Note Raskin's reference to Dred Scott. In case you don't remember this ugly episode from American history, Dred Scott was an African-American man, a slave who sued his owners for freedom. Because his slavers had taken Scott from Missouri, a slave state, into Illinois, which was a free state, Scott and his lawyers argued he could no longer be a slave. The case went all the way up to the Supreme Court, where Scott lost in a 7-2 vote. In the court's decision, which was written by Chief Justice Roger Taney, the court said that people of African descent, quote, are not included and were not intended to be included under the word citizens in the Constitution, and can therefore claim none of the rights and privileges which that instrument provides for and secures to citizens of the United States, end quote. The decision also ruled that African Americans were not protected under the Bill of Rights, and therefore were not entitled to free speech, the right to bear arms, freedom of assembly, or any of the other basic freedoms Americans now consider to be essential. The Dred Scott decision is considered one of the worst the Supreme Court ever handed down. It exacerbated growing tensions over slavery in the United States as more and more of the public supported abolition. After the Civil War, the United States passed the 13th and 14th Amendments to abolish slavery and to grant citizenship to anyone born on American soil. Sadly, Dred Scott wouldn't live to see his freedom. He died in 1858, 10 years before passage of the amendments. Congressman Raskin's reference to Dred Scott is an important one. Had the United States had the 14th Amendment on the books from the beginning, Dred Scott would have won his freedom. For that matter, it's quite likely that the United States would have abolished slavery from the beginning, and we would have had no Civil War. Now, Donald Trump wants to return the United States to, as Congressman Raskin points out, a time when race, not location, determined a child's citizenship. Trump's executive order aims to eliminate birthright citizenship for the children of immigrants and migrants. In essence, he wants to take the United States backward to a time of massive inequality and hypocrisy. He wants to undo the brave sacrifice of the Americans who passed the 14th Amendment, not to mention all those who fought and died to eliminate slavery and promote equality during our Civil War. All of this brings to mind one question. How does that make America great again? Is that truly what the Republican Party now wants? A nation of divided class when the race of someone's parents determined his rights under the law? There's virtual agreement among historians of both conservative and liberal leanings that establishing slavery was the biggest sin ever committed by the founders. It's still the greatest stain on the reputation of the United States. Our ancestors fought and died in the bloodiest war ever fought on American soil to cleanse us of that stain, to make America good as its promise that all of us are created equal. Once upon a time, the Republican Party, as exemplified by President Lincoln, stood for abolition and for equality. But in the era of Trump, it stands only for cruelty, it stands for discrimination, it stands for hypocrisy, and it stands for blight. Fortunately, Congressman Raskin has reminded all of us what America is supposed to stand for. This is Occupy Democrats.